Why don't we just do it earlier? Well, then we'd have to change all the invites and we'd be finishing earlier, so. Okay, but what if we paid extra for the Excelsior package? Well, we don't really have enough money, and it's a bit too late to be doing an upgrade. Okay, what if we separated the groups into four and, well, the tables are kind of set for two groups, you can't really be changing that. Well, why don't you think of something so? So, among the many types of thinkings, two I want to talk to you about today is divergent and convergent. Right, so divergent is going from zero options to infinity options. It's creativity, it's imagination, it's brainstorming. Whereas convergent is narrowing down the options, being realistic, being practical, filtering through the ideas, picking out the best ones, picking and throwing away the worst ones. Now, you might find that your critical side overpowers your creative side, that you'd be quick to shoot down your own ideas and you're quick to point out the holes in other people's ideas. That won't work because of this, that won't work because of that. Now, George Land has some extremely interesting research findings that he alludes to in his very good TED Talk, his great TED Talk. And he shows that he studied subjects from the age of 5 and all the way up to adulthood and into middle age and beyond there. And he found that the 5-year-olds, the majority of them, if not all of them, had genius levels of imagination. They were just full to the brim with creativity. And but then, very interestingly, when it came to the 25-year-olds, the 35-year-olds, and the 45-year-olds, there's a huge drastic drop in the imagination levels. Let's say the 5-year-olds, let's say 95% of them had genius levels of imagination, but when it came to the 25-year-olds, only 5%. Then it came to the 35-year-olds, only 2%. Like a huge drop. I don't remember the exact figures, but I'll provide a link to the George Land TED Talk in the description. Now, what happened there? So how come 95% of the population have genius levels of imagination and only 5% of 25-year-olds have it and are going to lose it in just a few years' time? Now, I hypothesize that it is the enormous pressure to be a realistic adult. For example, when you're 5 years old, the following suggestions are deemed hilarious and adorable and so sweet, right? When you suggest that let's just borrow the Queen's ice cream van, she can help us out, or when you say, oh, let's get these seagulls together, tie them up with string, and they'll get us to our destination, or why don't we just call Santa and ask to borrow his sleigh, right? When you say that when you're 5, it's adorable and it's accepted willfully. It's encouraged almost. If you say that when you're 25 years old, though, you are going to be judged. You're going to be judged hard. And if not judged, we're going to hold you in contempt because you're making a mockery of our brainstorm. Get out of here with those ridiculous ideas. We're trying to solve a problem here, okay? Right? There's an enormous pressure to be a realistic adult. So what happens then is that you try to do convergent and divergent thinking at the same time. You try to think of something creative, but then you also try to criticize it at the same time. And that's where you get into trouble, because you can't be fully creative whilst your critic is present pointing out all the flaws. You can't get your creative juices flowing when there's someone there shooting down your ideas in your own head. If the root of our problem is that we're doing convergent and divergent thinking at the same time, then the solution, in my opinion at least, is to separate the two. That's how we're going to get any kind of progress, any forward motion. So you need to suppress the critic long enough so that the muse can have a go and get all the ideas down in huge volumes. You need to tie up and gag and send the critic away so that you can just get down all the ideas you can think of. There's a reason why they say in brainstorming sessions that no idea is a bad idea, because they just want to get volume down, because they know that you have to suppress judgment in order to get there. There's a reason why Julia Cameron recommends the morning pages, because you got to get like the rust off. You got to get the bad ideas out first before you can get to the good ideas. There's a reason why Anne Lamont talks about and recommends doing a shitty first draft, because you need somewhere to go from. You need a starting spot. So the idea is, the solution in my mind anyway, is to separate the two. Give yourself enough time and space to get all your ideas down, and then let the critic come in and do it. And they work well in partnership, because the divergent thinking is going to get a huge volume of ideas down, and then the convergent thinking is going to come in and it's going to separate for you. It's going to filter out the good ideas from the bad ideas. And once you have just a few good ideas, then you can start to brainstorm again off the good ideas. The way I like to see it is that divergent thinking is going to get your project off the ground, but convergent thinking is going to make sure your project lands. So to give you guys an example of convergent and divergent thinking that I've done, I have here all the stuff I wrote in order to make one blog post. The blog post was maybe 100 words long, and yet I got almost 1 3/4 of A4 pages. This entire, if you can see on this page, all the way from here up, didn't make it into the final draft. You can see scribbles, scribbles, scribbles. You can see more scribbles in red. Scribble, scribble, scribble. These sentences, this bit, all didn't make it. And the way I view this is that I needed all these crappy ideas in order to get to the good ideas. I needed to shed the kind of rust. I need to know what I didn't want to say before I could know what I wanted to say. And that's how I think of convergent and divergent thinking working together. Convergent, make sure it's good. Divergent, make sure you get started. Now, what George Land recommends at the end of his TED Talk as a correction from the default setting of convergent thinking, of being critical, towards imagination again and developing that muscle, is to take everyday objects, like for example a fork, and list 30 uses for them. And what's great about this is that you'll manage maybe 5 or 6 quite easily, but after that they'll really start to hurt your brain, to really start to stretch you, and you'll have to really push yourself to get to 30. And that's great, because that's where all the growth and the muscle development, the idea generation, muscle development, is going to come from. And this is a great thing to practice, because how often do we choose the path of least resistance? You know, I guess that you decided your commute to work, you Google Maps it the first time, and then you just followed it every day since then. You were mindful the first time, you were mindless every day since then. And how often do we do that in every other day situations? You know, we pick the first solution that works. You know, we can stop brainstorming. Oh, we found the solution that works. Instead of doing 100 ideas, you know, an excessive amount of ideas, because by getting in the practice of doing that, you can actually find an idea that is amazing. You know, rather than something that just works for now, but actually solves all your problems. So it's a great practice, and it's a great skill to develop. Convergent thinking. Look out for it. Try it. Damn it. Not convergent thinking. Divergent thinking. Imagination, creativity. I keep getting those two things mixed up. Anyway, I'm Thomas, and thank you for watching.